Hey everyone, Rob J here, and welcome to the Nova. Today we're going to talk about the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers for the Super Nintendo. If you were a big fan of the show back in the 90s, you would have loved the toy line and the video game. It is an amazing beat 'em up. By far, I would say it's on the line of being just as great as Streets of Rage 2. Yeah, I said that. It's got the perfect formula of a simplistic beat 'em up. It's not as complex as Streets of Rage 2, but it's got a good science, if that makes any sense, of being a simple beat 'em up. There's a good amount of enemies on the screen. You have your light attacks, well, like your basic light combo, and then your hard attack, and you also have your special move, which clears the screen and it damages bosses. But they've done it so well in this game that it keeps the gameplay flow going at a consistent rate. Like, you never feel like you're standing still. You never feel like you're dragging on in the level because they've done such a good job with the pacing and with the moves and with the boss fights. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers for the Super Nintendo, you need to get it for your collection. Get it by any means, and if you can get it in the box with the manual, do it. Do it. It's a piece of classic history for the Super Nintendo. And it's a shame that it hasn't been ported that much over to new generation consoles. It may have been, and I may just not be aware of this. But let's get into the gameplay of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Let's get into the story of it. If you were to watch this show back in the day, you would see that the main villain was Rita Repulsa, and she would always want to destroy the Power Rangers. And I think her motive was just a simplistic one, just to take over the world. Now, in each episode, she would send a new monster at the Power Rangers, and they had to gear up and, do that to turn into their, Mighty Morphin Power Ranger suits to gain that power. And each Power Ranger represented a different prehistoric animal. The Yellow Ranger, for example, was a saber-tooth. The Red Ranger, which was my favorite, he was a Tyrannosaurus Rex. The Pink Ranger, which was Kim, she was a pterodactyl. If I could name off all the characters in my head, I can, I think. There was Zach, who was the Black Ranger. Billy was the Blue Ranger. Jason was the Red. Yellow was Trini, and the Yellow Ranger was Trini, and the Pink Ranger was Kim. Yeah, I named them all. But each of these characters had their own, I think it was called Battlezord or Battle Vehicle, which represented their prehistoric animal. And if an enemy got too tough, they would have to form the Megazord, which had the Power Sword, and that would just be an amazing showdown on the TV show where you would see them fighting, and their sizes are humongous. Like, they're towering over trees and buildings, and it's just a big chaotic fight. And that's also represented in the game as well. I'll get to that a little bit later. Each of the stages in this game are very well paced. Like I said before, you never feel like you're standing still or it's dragging on. It mixes up between taking down those putty enemies to overcoming very simple obstacles. Some of them can be tough, but it's never to a point where you're like throwing the controller in the air and turning off your Super Nintendo and walking away from the system. No, you can overcome these obstacles very easily with a very minimal amount of practice. And that's where they have the good balance. I know in the past, I've always said, if you're a beat 'em up, just stick to being a straight up beat 'em up. Don't try and be a beat 'em up slash run and gun slash vehicle shooting game. No. But in Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, they've balanced it really well. And because they decided to have two different kind of variables, beating up enemies and overcoming obstacles. They didn't try to make one level just completely obstacles. They mixed it up, which, again, I feel like I'm saying this as a broken record, was a great idea. Now let's talk about the boss fights. The boss fights are not too hard and not too easy. They're balanced. I keep saying the word balanced in this game because this game is so balanced. It's a balanced beat 'em up. And the enemies or monsters that you face are Bones, the Eye Guy, this Green Ninja. You also face, I'm blanking here, a genie, and then this pig guy that has like a rake. And then towards the end of the game, you have your two Megazord fights. But the boss fights never feel cheap. You can overcome them very easily. You have to figure out the strategy behind them because they can defeat you. I personally defeated them on my first try. I never had that much of an issue, and also you can use your special ability against them, which is great. Let's get into the Megazord fights. Yeah, that's what everyone wants to hear is the Megazord fights. When the Megazord is assembling, there's so much nostalgia seeing it on screen in the game, and I'm just like, this game just blew it out of the water. They went hard. They just went, you know what? It's Megazord time. It's Megazord time. Let's just do this presentation. And you're just like, whoa! And then you're fighting up against these two monsters who I can't name. I can't name any monster in this game because it's been a long time since I watched a show back in the 90s, and even going on Wiki or Fandom Wiki, I can't find who I want to find. I think they're just random monsters. I think Bones is one, and I think Eye Guy is one, but I could be wrong. Anyways, back to the Megazord fight. The controls are a standard fighting game formula. So if you're used to playing Street Fighter, you'll be accustomed to playing the Megazord that way. And there's a certain special amount of moves you can do, and it's very simplistic. It's not too complicated. You'll understand very quickly of how to take down the monster. But it was just nostalgia for me, again, to be that Megazord and fighting and then doing the finishing blow with the power sword, and then boom, that monster is dead. And then you face the final monster who you have to defeat him twice for some reason. I'm sure there's some lore behind why you couldn't kill him the first time. And it's been way too long since I've watched the show. So if anyone who's watching the video, let me know in the comments below if you know the monsters' names and also why the final boss you had to kill it twice. It doesn't make any sense. There's gotta be some lore behind it, but again, being the Megazord was a lot of fun. It's Street Fighter controls, fighting game controls. You'll get used to it very quickly. And if you watch this show in the 90s and saw the Megazord fight, your nostalgia will just be like overloaded. Yeah, the Megazord. Oh man, and I think I covered a lot of the topics about this game. It's, again, broken record, amazing formula for a beat 'em up. It's got obstacles which don't last too long. There's not levels that are just dedicated to obstacles. That's a personal pet peeve of mine. Like, as an example, in Batman Returns, I absolutely hated the fact that it went from beat 'em up to a run and gun shooter or run and gun batarang shooter to a vehicle shooter game. I hated it. I know they were trying to get different parts of the movie in the game. Amazing, good job. But it's not like in this game where they just strictly did a battle vehicle section. No, they were just like, it's gonna be a beat 'em up. Let's make it a beat 'em up with minor sections of obstacles. Boom, done. Amazing formula. And one thing that could have been better about the game is maybe have more enemies on screen, but maybe a lot of the memory took place into the the music in the beginning. Yeah, they actually have the music from this show. Go Power Rangers! That must have took up a lot of memory, but it was so worth it. And maybe the Megazord fights too. But again, I wouldn't know where all the memory went and the limitations of the Super Nintendo. It's very strange when you think about the beat 'em ups on Sega Genesis compared to the Super Nintendo. In the Sega Genesis, you see the beat 'em ups having multiple enemies on screen. In the Super Nintendo, it varies with having 2 to 3 on screen to having 2. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers is perfect, but it makes me wonder why that happens. Again, I think my theory about the memory capacity is right. But anyways, let's get back on track to how amazing the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers is. And if I've missed anything to cover, which I don't think I did, the music is amazing. I'll get you pumped up. The special moves are great. In between each level, this is actually kind of cool. After you defeat, after you defeat the boss at the end of the stage, you get a password. That's great, and you can also switch between the Rangers. So you're not stuck with being Billy the whole way through. You can switch between Billy to Zach to Jason to Kim to Trini, then play Trini again. I don't know why more beat 'em ups didn't do that. Like, imagine if Streets of Rage did that, or Streets of Rage 2 did that, where you beat a stage and you got to choose between Axel, Max, Skate, or Blaze again. And you got to switch between them. That's actually a great idea for a beat 'em up. I wish modern beat 'em ups followed this. I like that. And I think some platformers like X-Men 2 was following this, and same with X-Men Mutant Apocalypse. After every time you defeated a stage, you got to pick a different character. So why not follow this formula? Because it makes you want to play every character and see which character suits you. Again, the Power Rangers were all very similar. You had your light combo, you had your heavy attack, you had your grapples, you had your special moves, but it's all a matter of who you like, which Ranger you like. So I personally like the Red Ranger. I didn't play him the whole way through, but I played him in a couple stages. I tried out the Black Ranger. I tried out every single Ranger, and I loved having the option of doing that. And I think that was a really great option that the Power Rangers did for this video game. You know what I'm saying? I'm really glad that the Power Rangers video game did this for us, for like a nerd like me. And what also was kind of sad for me too was that the final boss wasn't Rita. Yeah, Rita Repulsa. I may have been wrong. This may have been a form of her where I'm not too familiar with. Again, someone please let me know in the comments below how wrong I am. But you didn't get to face her towards the end of the game. And I was like, aw. But I guess in the show you never saw the Power Rangers take her on personally. She always just like threw monsters at them, and that was it. So my final recommendation is get the game. Get the game. It's amazing. It's so well done. It's phenomenal. And I wouldn't be surprised in a couple of years from now when the Power Rangers just keep producing show after show after show that this game will skyrocket as being the original of when when the show came out and got popular with the toy line, and the video game will be like up in price. So this is a theory of mine. You might as well grab it now because I think it's super cheap. I picked up my Power Rangers video game for $30. You can too. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. If you liked what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. I'm Rob J. Thank you for entering the Nova, and I'll see you next time. Take care.